what we're showing you isn't the sexiest stuff, but what it is, it's the stuff that makes you successful and rich. So these are the things and these are the activities that need to be done and you need to plan properly to where you're going to see successful. This is what the gurus don't talk about. They talk about how to get all these deals fast, but they're not really showing you these are the little things that need to get done to plan properly to continue to be successful. Everyone, thank you so much for attending. And for you guys that don't know who I am, I'm Jesse Burrell. I'm the CEO here at BatchService. And as I said, I actually have known about Collective Genius for quite a while. And I have quite a few friends that are really big real estate investors that are doing tens of $1 million in assignments every single year. And I finally got to get into the group last quarter, and it was everything that I expected. And if I'm excited about something and I see the value in it, I want to make sure that our community can see the value and take advantage of Collective Genius as well. It's just an incredible group, and it's different from any mastermind that I've been in. But we're going to talk about that later. We're going to make sure that we could give you guys some value to really crush your goals in 2025. So Brian, I'm going to let you kind of kick it off with, the importance of setting the tone for 2025.
Yeah, excited to do that. So, just so everybody knows kind of my background a little bit, before I came on full time with Team CG, I was running a real estate investing business in Indianapolis, Indiana. We were doing about 250 plus deals a year. So wholesale, some flips, taking down some rentals, doing some notes. So doing a little bit of everything. And it's kind of in that situation where what happened every year is we'd set our quarterly rocks, and then we get to like 3 weeks before the end of the quarter was over and we're like, oh man, like, did you do this yet? Or did you do this yet? And we just found ourselves always falling behind on our, when we're looking at our rocks and looking at what we wanted to do each quarter and stuff. And then I started doing some coaching on the side as well, working with Sharper Business Solutions and working with them and doing some coaching, and realized that it wasn't just us. A lot of teams fall into that category of like, oh man, we're setting these quarterly rocks, but we don't know how to like implement them or how to kind of go step by step and set those milestones to do that. And then Collective Genius, me and Leon have been working with a lot of teams over the last few years, and it's kind of the same thing. Is everybody's a hard driver and everybody wants to keep pushing and pushing, but being realistic with setting goals and kind of staying on pace where they need to be and implementing those and executing on those each quarter comes a little difficult. So that's what I just wanted to kind of talk about today. It's something that we've been doing. I've been passionate about it. I love this. Is Leon likes to say, like, this is Brian's love language. This is what I enjoy talking about and digging into a little bit. Is just, hey, let's lay out a plan for what we want to do within those, the next 90 days, and then an implementation schedule that kind of shows a little bit of how we want to do that. So that's what I want to kind of share today. Hopefully we can bring some value and help you guys out with what's working. But this is working with a lot of our members in CG and a lot of just people in the real estate community. So happy to share here. I think where people struggle a little bit is kind of figuring out what they want to focus on and when they want to focus on it. So what do we actually want to do for those next 90 days? We'll talk about planning out and how you can plan for those 90 days at a time when it comes to this. But a lot of people maybe struggle with like, what do I actually want to do over the next 90 days? These next 3 tabs, essentially, they have some exercises that you can kind of go through to figure out like, what's important? What do I need to focus on over the next 90 days? These exercises will kind of take you through and help you figure out and prioritize what those things are. So this first one, if you're a smaller team or you're kind of a one-man show right now, or you're in that leadership position, you got a lot of stuff on your plate, you're wearing multiple hats, you're doing a little bit of everything. This is kind of I like to call this basically an elevate, delegate exercise. So what are you doing? And then what do you need to continue to do? And what do you need to get off your plate? So I kind of like just call this the genius zone assessment. So I always like to, when I'm talking about myself or our team members or anything like that, I always want them working within their genius zone as much as possible. And a lot of times that revolves into revenue generating activities. So this is an exercise you can kind of go through. If you make a list of basically everything, your top 10 to 15 things or 20 things you're doing on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, they're going to fall into one of these 4 categories. So it's probably going to be one of your strengths and you really enjoy doing it. It's going to be a strength of yours, but you necessarily don't enjoy doing it. You like doing it, but it's not necessarily your strength. Or it's those things that it's not your strength and you don't like doing it. Well, if you go through this exercise, one of the things you can do is there's a lot of things in this category. That's the stuff you need to delegate, whether it's an executive assistant, a lead manager, or somebody else on your team. That's one of the things that you can basically take this category and it's their job description. So if you're going through this exercise and you realize that man, I have a lot more stuff kind of down here on this end than up here on this end. One of the things you should probably do first 90 days or starting off in 2025 is probably hire yourself some help, whether it's a VA or an executive assistant or lead manager. And that's usually going to end up generating the revenue because it's going to free up your time where you can focus on doing deals and making some money.
To be honest with you guys, is like what we're showing you isn't the sexiest stuff, but what it is, it's the stuff that makes you successful and rich. So these are the things and these are the activities that need to be done, and you need to plan properly to where you're going to see successful. This is what the gurus don't talk about. They talk about how to get all these deals fast, but they're not really showing you these are the little things that need to get done to plan properly to continue to be successful. And then to your point, Leon, is like just because someone else is doing multifamily does not mean that's what you need to be doing. And back to that laser focus is really dive in. And I have a good friend here, Zach Keeps, who has been extremely successful, and he's been doing it for 25 years. And all he does is buy and flip single family homes, and his portfolio is worth over $100 million, and all he has is one executive assistant. He leases out all the properties, he still goes on all the appointments, he still talks to every single person, he gets all the deals, he works with the crews. He is the smallest operation I've ever seen. And this, he won't let me say what he's worth, but he's worth a lot of money. His LTV is incredible, but it goes back to him being like, I'm so happy for everyone doing it their way, but this way works, and I know it so well, and I repeat it, I repeat it, and I repeat it. And that is, I think, what Leon was really trying to get across right there, is just get really good at something and stick with it. Not saying you can't transition to other things, but that typically lose money at the beginning when you do those new things, and you're spreading your team thinner and they're having to learn more. It really complicates. So you better be sure, and you better do the research, and you better have a plan if you're going to add other strategies, in my opinion.
Jesse, we're not saying don't go and do new things in the future. We're just saying do new things that maybe you're not doing when you're wealthy enough that you can take more risk. Right. You've built the foundation of consistent, repeatable revenue. That is what this plan ultimately, especially for those that are looking to scale and grow. And even if you're not looking to become a massive operator, to Jesse's point, there are a million different ways to do this at a super high level. I personally don't love to manage big teams. I'd rather have small teams, have really high margins, and maybe do more of the hands-on than having a bunch of overhead on a monthly basis. Now, I also know a lot of people that would much rather continue to have their foundation built with team, operations, repeatable processes with really high talented people so they can grow and scale and dominate the world. There's a million different ways to go about this, but I can promise you this, those that are successful have a plan and they stick to it.
On any kind of plan that I want to put in place in front of, even if it's for myself or for me and the team or whatever it may be, I always want to make sure I start with some core values. What are our core values? I want to make sure they're at the forefront. I want to make sure they're out in front of everybody, and then we're just reminded of there. And then we have the long-term goal. What does a long-term goal look like for what we're shooting, what we're going after? And then midterm is what's in between where I am now to my long-term goal. What's right in the middle there to get to that point? And then I want to put that kind of 1-year goal on there as well. And then put my profit goals on there as well with what that looks like and what I want to try to hit there for the year. Next, what I want to put on there is the big metrics. You know, if you're a wholesale business, novations, fix and flip or something like that, I view these as like the top metrics. Then the next thing, let's say I went through some of these exercises, like I mentioned, the genius zone or the start, stop, continue, or the SWOT analysis. And I pulled out maybe 5 things that I want to focus on for the next 90 days. There were 5 things that I identified as top priority, bigger projects that I want to focus over the next 90 days. I kind of just take those and I put them over here on the left side. And then each line is going to basically be an implementation schedule for what I want to do. So, you know, Jesse, you mentioned this. This is like, it's not something super sexy. It's pretty simple with this, but this is what a lot of people struggle with. Basically like taking an initiative, and sometimes we just basically put what our goal is by the end of the 90 days or whatever it is, but we don't put those steps in place to actually get to there. And then we ended up getting into week 10 of the quarter. And we're like, oh man, I'm so far behind on this. Then we just push it off and push it off. You know, basically building out this implementation schedule has been a game changer for us and a lot of other businesses as well. And really what I'm doing, just each week, what you're doing is you're sitting down for your weekly meeting and you're just going through, if it's week 1, are you on pace for what's happening in week 1? If we're on week 5, all you're doing at is looking at this column. Are we on pace for this? Are we on track? Are we off track? Whatever it may be. And then you make updates. You make updates on here as you need to. So pretty simple formula for being able to draw or implement out what you need to do to hit your goals, and then just go out and execute with them.
The exercise of doing this and doing this religiously and knowing that you're going to make changes and that is completely okay. Your business may change or a marketing channel may change that you want to bring in that's really important to you, but always making sure you're planning. And then this new shiny object, is it more important than the plan you already put together, or should you stick with what's already planned out in front of you? And that's your decision to make. But I just want you guys to know that are going to be doing this for the first time is you're going to plan in December for your first quarter. I hope you guys really use this. It's going to be very powerful to have your businesses grow. But just understand as you go through it every week, it is okay to make pivots and change. That's what business is all about. So I just want to make sure that don't be too stringent on the plan that you put together, but make sure that you challenge yourself with these new things that you may want to implement. Make sure that you believe that are going to move the needle and you have the time to actually execute them properly. So that was the only point I was really trying to get across right there. Let's pivot into, the investor journey and talk about,
Yeah.
scaling to a full-time investor. So Brian, do you want to share on, you've closed over 300 deals a year. What are key lessons and strategies for, the progression in the investor journey? If you want to touch on that real quickly. And then after that, let's touch on, maybe milestones that people should be shooting for those first 90 days of 25.
Yeah, I think an investor journey of kind of just building up to what you want to do is it comes back to honestly what Leon was saying and Jesse, you were saying too, like pick one thing and do it really, really well. So where I see a lot of investors, and I've been in that situation too, if I'm wholesaling, I want to wholesale and I want to put I always want to put a time frame on something of like, if I'm going to wholesale and I want to try to get to this amount of revenue and I want to try to do it by the end of this year or whatever it may be, I just put a time frame on something of like, can I do this for this long? And then go out and just attack it. Just go out and execute as best I can to get to a certain point. Once I get to that point, I'm either going to be behind, on pace, or ahead. And then I need to just make that decision like, okay, do I want to put more money in this? Do I want to scale this? Is this working for me? Can I continue doing this? And just kind of going about it that way.
Okay. And then critical milestones for, the first 90 days of 25. Leon, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts?
I think the biggest milestone that you should be tracking on a quarterly basis if you're looking to grow and scale a business, and honestly, this is an issue that I consistently see, I would be focused on all the KPIs that Brian gave you. He just gave you a roadmap. A lot of times I'll get newer investors, and when I say newer, 1 to 3 years, they'll say, Leon, what should I be tracking? He just gave you all of those predictable indices that you should be tracking and making sure they're consistent and predictable. All too often, I will see that newer investors will move from active income, wholesaling, assignments, hoteling, fix and flip, or more hoteling, but light fix and flip. And they'll go into BRRRR strategy or small apartments, what have you. I would focus every single quarter on if your active income for the year, you want to hit a milestone of $500,000 of gross profit, let's say. The first quarter, I would make sure that I'm above target in that first quarter of predictable active income. All the things that are your issues coming into the year are all fixed by revenue. You can hire better people. You can hire or bring on better software, better data. Everything is cured by revenue. So I'd love to give you all these other fancy answers, but I will say that in the 6 years I've been in this seat, the things that I see that are the most successful always focus on that first and then add on top of that because revenue cures all.
Lastly, you guys have provided so much value, and that's why I wanted to have you guys on, because I know the impact, just how buttoned up Collective Genius is, and you guys work with the best investors in the country. So let's kind of talk about power of community. And then I also want to talk about you guys kind of going through, there's investors on all different levels that are on this call, and just there's different groups for different people, and you can move up those groups as you thrive with Collective Genius. And I just want people to understand that if you're doing 5 or 10 deals a year, or I think somewhere around there, you guys have a group for that. And then you have a group for people that are doing all the way up to, I'm in the CEO group, which is a small group of crazy successful people that I'm just lucky to be a part of. And, some of those people are doing $40 million in assignments, which is absolutely nuts. So there is something for everyone. So if you guys really want to talk about the power of the community and the power of Collective Genius, I will add to and give my colorful thoughts on why I believe it's so great. But I'll let you guys kick it off.
You know, I think it's important to talk about the journey of a real estate investor and the journey of how we support the different levels to this. Everyone is at a different phase of their business, depending upon how long they've been in this. And so for 10 of our 14 years at the Collective Genius, we only cater to the most elite real estate investors in the country. In fact, when I started in this role 6 years ago, we had one level, 117 members, and we only catered to that highest level. But what we started to notice, and I mentioned this to you in the past, Jesse, is that we started to notice that just like a ladder, you've got rungs and you're trying to get to the top. Well, if you skip a couple of those rungs, you're going to fall back down. And don't get me wrong, everyone, as part of their journey, you know, your biggest lessons come from those defeats and maybe falling down a little bit. So you need that. But we also want to have a net if you miss one of those rungs. And how we do that is by separating and having different levels so people can be in the room with people that are similar and at the same time can learn from, because they're not so far out that they can't reach. There's a bridge there. And so now fast forward 4 years. In the last 4 years, we've added 3 additional communities. So we cater to full-time real estate investors, those doing at least a deal a month or revenue equivalency. And because I know some in San Francisco or New York may be, you know, doing less than a deal a month, but do more revenue because they're in harder markets and what they have to invest in is a higher dollar amount. So revenue equivalency, but generally it's someone doing at least a deal a month full-time or just about to jump full-time. Maybe they've got a high-paying W-2 and they're just about to make that jump and they need community support. We have a group for that. It starts at our Elevate level group and now goes all the way up to the group that you're a part of, which is $10 million and above or certain net worth parameters. But those are typically people that have been in the business for 20 plus years and are the highest level real estate investors across the country. So everything in between. We have a community over 450 members now strong nationwide. There's only a few major metros that I do not have represented, but there's someone in almost every state, in almost every market, and some in the UK and Israel and other markets as well that invest in the United States. And I'll say this about those different levels. You mentioned earlier coaches. We don't offer coaching. What we do offer are people that are really good at certain things that we offer intentional connection to make sure that other investors that are doing the business, and we're investors as well, we both have experience. I still invest. So sometimes we are the connection, but there's no gurus in this group. The community supports each other, and you may be really good at marketing and I'm really good at sales. Well, combined, we're a heck of a team and we help each other along the way. That is the power of CG.
Brian, what do you have to add to the amazingness of CG, the Collective Genius?
Yeah, no, Leon summed that up very well. But I'd say one thing that I'll brag on us, because this is what I hear over and over again. When a new member comes in and they get on the weekly calls and they get involved in the community and they get engaged and then they come to their first event, the number one comment I always get back is like, I can't believe the amount of value that everybody is willing to give. I can't believe the amount of people that are willing to help me out. And I think that's something we just do very well. It kind of speaks to what Leon's saying is you have to be a culture fit to be able to be accepted into CG as well. It's like you can be doing some deals and things like that, but you have to be a culture fit as well. You have to be have that go-giver mentality, because the reality is what makes CG so great is not Leon standing up on stage or Jason or myself or anybody in the community. It's the community comes together and they're willing to help each other out and be able to provide the content, and just they've been through it. You get to sit at the same table with people that are going through the same issue that you're going through, that have been through it, or that you can help as well. So that's what really makes CG work. It's all about the community and the connections that you get from it.
Leon, Brian, thank you so much. Everyone that showed up today, I hope this was helpful to you. Until next time, let's get it.